Hey, and welcome back to our fourth session about digital marketing in Lørn Masters with Ida Serneberg. We've had 3 chats, Ida, and this is a kind of a conversational teach me session where you are trying to explain to me through these chats what is digital marketing and how I can start using it as a person who hasn't done any of it before. And the first one was about the primer, the definition, the concepts of the subject. The second one was about your favorite examples. The third session was about the 3 different aspects of digital marketing: technology, business, and society, and how, what are some interesting dilemmas and what do you have to think about in each of those boxes. And now we are in our final chat, and basically I'm hoping that you will help me get started. So if we try to think of a concrete example, and I come to you and I say, Ida, I want to start a digital marketing campaign on this masterclass, and I want to make sure that at least 5,000 people take the masterclass diploma. And how do I start? I'm hoping we'll talk about that and a little bit about the requirements before we can start a project like that, and also a little bit about maybe some of the future jobs I should be thinking more about than I am at the moment. Sounds good?
Yes.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
So then my question is, basically, as I said it, how do I start on a digital campaign for the masterclass about digital marketing?
Yes, and that is very often the case, that companies come to me and they say, we have this need and we want to start a campaign. And to begin with, the campaign is the tactics, and very often that's the solution. And very often we go to the solution without it having the problem. We jump over that. What was the real problem here? Very often the problem might be, the product that you want to sell there is no need for it in the market, or there is a need for it, but you don't reach the right people at the right time. So what I always start with is to investigate what is the real problem here. And in order to do so, I also have to look at the infrastructure. So if you come to me, I would start with looking at
I want to answer
how does it look like.
I just want to keep playing ball.
Yeah.
So my problem is that I don't think people they understand that lifelong learning is good for them, but they haven't really found a way to put it in their everyday life. So the real problem is really that I'm trying to build a habit, and that's a really hard thing to do. Yeah.
And then and in order to build a habit, you have to nudge people. And in order to understand that, we have to understand that the habit has to occur on the consequence of something else. So in order to have people prioritize learn, they have to give up something else. So that's like with me in my training. In order to get back to SATs or berries, I have to give up some habits. So sometimes it's also about understanding what are the habits that are standing in the way for lifelong learning. And lifelong learning is a really good example because everyone knows it's important, but how do I implement that into my life as a part of my lifestyle?
And then I need an infrastructure as well. You start.
Yes. You need an infrastructure. An infrastructure means, to begin with, people around you. So I would have to understand, okay, who's in your organization and what do they do? What are their competencies? In order to understand what can be my role here, because very often companies come to me and my students and they say, help us and save us from this. But we need to work on intertwined as well. So as an agency, as an external agency, you need to get your hands dirty, but you also have to, my job is to make your hands dirty. So then I have to understand your organization, who's responsible of what. I need to get access to then all the technology platforms. I need to check whether, okay, so what about your web page? Is it user-friendly? Because we can drive a lot of traffic, a lot of relevant traffic who are into signing up for your class, but they end up not signing up because the website is not functioning properly. So everything is tied up together. Yeah.
So we are continuing the example. So Lørn has Lørn.tech, which is our navigation page where you can find all the 1,000 cases and in additional materials. And then we have Lørn University, where we give you the same thing, but you have to register. Now, the advantage of Lørn University is you get a diploma when you have listened and answered the quiz. And we can register that diploma, certified with blockchain. We can't do that on LearnTech, because on LearnTech, we don't know who you are. But it seems like just the step of registration is scaring away many people. So what you're saying to me is that it doesn't really help creating a great digital marketing program unless all the steps that the users need to do in order to get to the final kind of, whether it's buying or using step, are very, very smooth. How do you optimize that?
Yeah, so here I also wonder whether the added value, a diploma, is that enough for people to sign up, or do we have to have even more added value? So that's like what most newspapers do, right? That you have the added value is the plus articles. So what are your pluses? Is it only the diploma? And if so, well, I wonder what's the need of people have an urgent need to learn about technology. Maybe they don't even care about the diploma.
Okay, so I think that's a great question. I think my plus, or our plus, is that we are soon providing you with individualized learning paths. So, one thing is that you can take one course, but we can provide you with a roadmap through the jungle of all this content, learning content, that is meaningful to you. And we can provide you several of those. But I guess all of this needs to be communicated very clearly in the campaign. So what you're saying to me is that just telling to people, hey, hello, please come here and click and take a diploma is not good enough. You need to be sure that you're providing them with a clear value messaging.
Yes. And then again, if I can be the devil's lawyer here, I also wonder, okay, an individual path. How will you know better than me about my individual path? And how can you fulfill all the goals, the aims that I have? So maybe I'm someone who, okay, I need to begin with some certificates in Google Analytics. And in addition to that, I need to understand a little bit about behavioral sciences and UX. So maybe I have to take a course in social psychology at the University of Amsterdam. So I also would like to challenge your role in that ecosystem of all these kinds of options out there in terms of both academic and non-academic, and how Lørn fits into that that blend.
So let's not go too deep in the example. I don't want to use all of our time on this, but basically our idea is that we have a different format, which is not a lecture, but a conversation. And we believe that format works really well as time in between. So, between work, between home, traveling, training, exercising. So it's a new format, but even more so, it's 1,000 stories, and hopefully will be 2,000 soon, that are tagged and structured in a way. Because if you go to LinkedIn, if you go to Coursera, the problem is that what you get there is usually either relatively extensive courses, And the top 5%, of course, are very good, and there is a lot of content, but it's difficult to. It's not snackable. It takes 3 weeks of your life to do the product management course. So I think it's but you have to communicate the uniqueness of your product very clearly, as you say, to be ordered in order to be not just seen but also selected. Because way too often we create marketing just to be seen, but that's not enough.
Exactly. Very good. Well said.
Okay, so let's say we create a positioning statement, and we create some nice posters for Facebook. And I say, please come and listen to this amazing master course, and you can get 3-4 really nice blockchain diplomas, and it's something you can do on your way to work, and it'll be fun. And then what? So how do I select the channel? How do I create those posters that are correct? How do I set up? Where should they go? How should I do that?
Yeah, good question. I would start with my existing database. So you must have some sort of existing database with the customers that you already have enrolled. And I would look into them to begin with and see, okay, so who are they? And where did they come from? How did they end up taking this course? That will give you a very good clue on who's out there, who can be replicated. So that's what we often refer to as twin profiles. So again, it goes back to who do I have in my existing audience, and how can I scale that, make it scalable. So, and that again will define where you should be. And where you should be, that's also a question of volume versus competition. So what we've seen recently is that some of my students, they tried out smaller niche medium where you get a smaller audience, but lower fee, and the competition is lower because no one else is there. Reddit, for instance. Reddit is you can get very easily view, like a high view rate on your ads. And then again, the question is, okay, how many of them then finally will sign up? So I want you also to think outside the existing kind of duopoly. And when I say duopoly, I mean Google and Facebook, because that's what our fast brain just goes to quickly, like we have to be on Facebook. I really strongly challenge that right now. I'm not sure whether Facebook is not going, in the years to come, Facebook is, the feed, the way we know it, is going to change radically. So you better just try to, in the coming phase, I would be very explorative right now. Just explore all the options that you have, like Reddit or, yeah.
Can I also ask you, are we being too blind to the physical? Because one of the things that I've noticed is I was skiing in Trysil over all the vacations this winter, and Storytel is on every billboard between Oslo and Trysil. And, on the trains, airport, on the ski slopes, in the hotels. I mean, you name it, there was Storytel. And, they didn't choose necessarily Facebook. They seem to have chosen the ski slopes, which I thought was a genius move.
And I love it. And I love that you say that, because that's what I mean with we're going so blind to this duopoly, Google, Facebook. And even we're very much into it has to be digital. No, it does not have to be digital. It can be either inbound meaning that people seek you because they have a need for it. That is the Google corridor. Or it can be interruptive. Interruptive is on the way to the ski slope, and I'm sitting in my own world reading my audiobook, and then I'm interrupted by some message on the way. Those are the two. And yes, we must think analog and digital at the same time. I don't like the fact that my course is called digital marketing. I think it should be called hybrid marketing, because that's what it is at the end of the day. And then it's all about price, position, price, and audience, people. Who do you want to reach out? How much money do you have? And where can I reach them in order to get their attention?
So if we play ball with that for a second, so my audience is really businesses. We are a business to business. So really, I want you to choose a masterclass with Ida, and then all the masterclasses might be behind the premium paywall, and it's your company that should pay for your annual subscription at a level of Spotify, for you to be able to get access to these Norwegian-focused masterclasses in business, tech, and society. So is there a very different way of thinking when you are trying to reach businesses?
Yeah, so again, I think your example is excellent. On the way to the ski slope, we have to remember that even if you want to reach out to business to business, and a lot of our clients say that, but we're different. We're business to business. At the end of the day, there is a human making the decisions. And on the way to the ski slope, that's actually when you want people to listen to some Lørn podcast. That's the place where you can say, well, and then you kind of have the message. Here, this could have been the opportunity for your staff to educate themselves. 20 minutes of time, like you could do from the commuting, from Økern in Oslo to Majorstuen, that's 20 minutes. That could be 20 minutes of education time. So you can try to put your message into where the people are, and that's actually where you want them to use the product. So that's something that I would use in the communication, I guess.
I also think that, again, another physical space that we forget is we've almost forgotten that we had this thing called conferences before the pandemics. But, it could be a possibility to create a product that's associated with the conference and then tell people, you want more of what you've learned today? Well, please go here and subscribe. And I just think that there are so many physical channels that still are in our world. And then the other one is, I want to go back to your idea of the app, because my Audible app, I don't buy my books through Audible. I buy them through Amazon, right?
Exactly.
But the moment I go into my car and I turn on my Bluetooth radio, the book starts playing, right? So that's how it keeps coming back into my life. And so it's that kind of blended, interruptive world that I think we need to find hooks into with all the products that we are trying to sell.
Yeah. Very well said.
So Ida, okay, so we create some campaigns. Can you just remind me of what would a planning document include? Let's say we go digital, and let's say we go on something, let's say in LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You talk to me about something like objectives in the first session.
Yes. So you always have objective, you always have a set of distribution, and you have creatives. And they're all connected with one another. The objectives might be, like you said, 50 signups. I need 50 signups on Lørn Academy. Distribution, that is placement. You say LinkedIn. In LinkedIn, you have two types of placements, or you have three. One placement is in mail. So you send an email, or it's in the feed, or it can also be on the right side if you're on the desktop. So that's there you have the placements, and then you have a price connected to it. The price would be more expensive than Facebook, but it's also a little bit more relevant for the audience group that you want to reach, since you're saying, okay, we want to reach out to business people. And LinkedIn, in many regards, are taking over some of the old functions to Facebook, or the old patterns that we have, the behavior that we have used to have on Facebook. We have it on LinkedIn now. And then you have to start to define your creative, and that's the most important part of it. 80% of all ads and campaigns, they fail on their creatives. So
they're just
you can
boring.
They're bad, low quality, boring. They are not. I don't understand it. They're in the wrong setting. You don't use the medium in the correct way. So those are all the concerns that you have to understand. That's why I would be a terrible advisor on TikTok, because I don't understand the functionalities that we have on TikTok. So if you want to be that person who sets up a campaign in LinkedIn, you also have to understand LinkedIn and how we relate to things in LinkedIn. I would also look into, okay, so what's the existing activities that LearnTech has on LinkedIn right now in terms of organic? If that's not in place, I wouldn't advise you to start putting money on it. So you need some sort of existing storyline there. What does it look like? How often do you publish? What do you publish? And how will those two cope with one another? That's what we call organic. So organic is not paid communication online. Further on, I have to check whether your website is good enough so that we get them through the whole journey to booking. That's something that needs to be in place. And obviously also some sort of tracking that makes it possible for me to say at the end of the day, was this a good campaign or a bad campaign? And if so, why?
Can I just make two comments? And we are going to have to go into landing with future jobs, but from our own scars on our backs, basically in Lørn, we have been trying, and we are building platform and the hiccups and everything. But two areas where I think that we failed the most so far one of them is exactly what you said now. So tracking and learning. What have we learned from this campaign, and how are we doing the next one differently? I think that lessons learned and lessons shared is super important and not done enough. There is a person or a team doing digital marketing, but it's how do you make the whole company a part of that?
Yes.
And how we all develop. I think that's really important. And the other thing I want you to comment on is mobile. So there is a different world of experiences on, a thing like this and on the desktop. And I don't think that we are good enough we think desktop first when we develop products. How do we blend in mobile more?
Yeah, a lot of questions. Where should we start? Let's start with the mobile. Okay, so mobile, it's an old cliche right now. Mobile first. We have to think mobile first. I kind of disagree. We have to think world first. And we have to think and relate to the fact that I'm currently now sitting in front of my desktop. I have my mobile here and I have a TV next to me. And we have to understand that we're working
across.
It's linked. Yeah, it's linked to one another. And in addition, maybe you're sitting on the way to Trysil to ski. So we have to think not mobile first, but user first. And how is this user being connected in to all of it? And yes, at the same time, so many of our web pages are not mobile first. And if they're not mobile first, they're not going to be good SEO, and then your campaign is going to fail. What was the other questions or comments that you had?
So just to summarize, rather than being hung up on one platform, and whether that's mobile or virtual reality or the clock that you're carrying or whatever, you really have to understand it's becoming an ecosystem of integrated things, and you have to kind of understand the context of the user.
Exactly.
And the other question was really, I feel that there is a disconnect in, delivery of a campaign and learning from the campaign.
Yes.
We keep doing campaign after campaign, and it's a little bit like banging your head on the wall without really kind of learning where to stop banging.
Yeah, and I'm also very tired of this. It's important to fail. We need to fail more. No, we don't. That we call that consequence pedagogy. That's a very it's not fashionable at all. We need to have a good structure for constant optimization, and constant optimization means constant learning, and call it lifelong learning, to use your terminology. And we also need to teach the ones that we have in our organization. That's why it always starts with, what's your internal platform? How do you share ideas? How do you spread ideas internally? And you need to build your brand internally in order to communicate it externally. And my students, I say that 80% of their time, they will work with the organization. 20% of the time, it will be creating the communication, creating the campaigns and activities. But 80% of the time will be just to have others to understand your collective journey, to understand them, to have them being engaged in your activity, because that's where the success starts. And I really believe that we need, talking about new professions, we need bridge builders internally. We need people who are working to integrate the whole company, to have everyone understanding the idea of communication and marketing.
Very good. So, I think we've talked about this whole series of steps where you have to understand the real problem. You have to imagine the context correctly, and then you spend enough effort and energy doing good creative work and setting up your objectives and your channels and your think about pricing, and don't think just mobile first, think world first, across channels and across platforms. Final question, Ida. What are the new most relevant jobs? What do you think that people should be? I was going to say specializing in, but I'm actually very much against specialization. So I think we need to have this cross-functional stuff, but you still have to have a title, a core, a task.
Yeah.
So
if I were to develop a new program, it would be digital ethics specialist, probably. And what we need is, we need psychologists who understand technology and what technology does to humans and what humans do with technology. And we need technologists being able to understand the psychology behind technology, the psychology within people when interacting with technology. We need bridge builders, like I've said, people who can work between divisions in a company and have them to work together. We need digital ethnographs, people understanding behavior online as well as offline, for that matter, and online in connection to offline. That's going to be a big thing. It's called netnography, actually. It's really important to understand that the successful organization of tomorrow, of 2022, is where you're working holistically. And holistically means that I understand that what I do has an impact on others in the company. I mean, the best example I have, and maybe it's far-fetched, but it relates to any industry, is the scientific society right now, where you often have the division in a university where you have the administration staff and you have the researchers. And the researchers, they need to reach out in order to get finances, in order to recruit participants. And in order to do so, they're dependent on a good infrastructure when it comes to the digital ecosystem of the university, which is often owned by the administration. And then all of a sudden you have this spot in between, and that's where the success comes in. And very often you can see that dual in any company. You have blue collars and the white collars. You have and we need to get away from that. And that's a big work, but it's the future. So also change, advocates for change, that sounds like a fluffy thing, but there's going to be
agents.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of organizational, structural changes in the years to come. That's often the number one. I have two major questions. Number two is the one you asked. I want to create a campaign. The first one is, how are we supposed to organize ourselves in order to succeed? So these are the two, and they are closely related, I would say.
At least I learned a lot, Ida. And one of the things that I learned is that we need to start on this journey, and we need to start experimenting and then figuring out what's a solution that works for our organization. And then find the right way of developing internal skills and developing external skills, or, purchasing skills with the best partners out there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for building this Masters chat with us in Lørn.
Thank you.